right, we are back with Thompson to Clark. The NLCS is on as we speak, so we'll kind of have that in the corner of our eye. We're going to talk about the possibility of the Giants having a new manager fairly soon, and I wanted to go through Andrew Baggerly's. He did a list, 10 tasks for the Giants. I just kind of wanted to go through it and get our feedback on some of the things that Baggerly wrote. And that's going to be this week because the NLCS and the ALCS are going on, then the World Series, and then right after the World Series, a few days later, free agency begins, and Zadie says they need a manager by then. So we're closing in on a couple weeks here before they need to figure out who they're going to hire. But Brad, what's going on? How much of this postseason have you been watching? As you can see, my Arizona Wildcats hat, which is little rooting for the Diamondbacks there. They did their job in the wild card round.
Yeah, they did their job, but I cut them loose now because I don't want to root for a division team. So I'm cutting them loose. Bye, Arizona. Thanks.
I think it would be nice if they made this series competitive.
You know, I'm a Corbin Carroll fan. I like the way that guy plays baseball. So I wouldn't be upset to see Corbin Carroll play, 7-8 more baseball games the rest of the season. I don't really have a rooting interest. I do want to see, honestly, and I say this every year because the Dodgers aren't in it now. And it's funny, we say that every year. The Dodgers aren't in it now. I want 7 games in all the remaining series. The Rangers are up 2-0 as we record this, 2-0. They go back to Arlington. So going back there, if Houston can get it together and take a couple of games and make this a series, that'd be awesome. And same with Philly and Arizona. Go 7 games, man. A game 7 in Philadelphia would be insane. And then if you had a game 7 anywhere, I can't really say if you had a game 7 in Arizona, it would be insane, but I guess it would. Against the Dodgers, they filled the stadium.
Go.
And we had that question too, kind of leading up to it. We're like, what is the atmosphere going to be like in Arizona? Because when it's the middle of July and they're a 500 ball club or a little bit under 500, it's like you don't get that feel for what the stadium could be like. And then against the Dodgers, it was just absolutely insane. So that being said, a game 7 anywhere is going to be fun. I got to look at the schedule because, it's always fun for me too. I just kind of set up a little something out on the driveway for Halloween. We do this candy shoot. So I have this ladder with a ghost on it and it's got a big tube coming out of his mouth. So the little kids come up and we drop candy down it. So if there's a game, a World Series game on Halloween, that's always fun for me. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So as you were talking about Arizona, trying to get to a game 7 or whatever. I think it was Castellanos just hit a home run. No. It was like a giant, the biggest uppercut swing you've ever seen in your life. And he just,
oh my gosh. So that's Schwarber. So tonight you got Schwarber, you got Harper, and you've got Castellanos with home runs, right? Is that what's going on here? Good.
Yes. So when you were out and Jared Seidler came on and we were just talking about, I was just like, who do you think's going to win? And he's like, well, do I have to take Atlanta out of this? And I was like, no, of course they're in it. Like they're the best team in the game. and so, they went on to lose, but we both said how much fun it would be for Philadelphia based on how baseball kind of took to them last year in their playoff run. And ultimately, I know the Dodgers are out, the big market of LA. Both New York, Boston, all those markets are gone. So, you're not going to hear about it. You're not going to see as much. The ratings are going to be a little bit down. So then you go to the next level. What's good for baseball? The star power. And I'm all for Bryce Harper getting to the World Series and being on that big stage again. Who do I want to see him face? Well, for old time's sakes, we can't really go wrong with D-Bake or Bochy. But then you kind of look at, okay, is it Corey Seager? Is Seager the guy who can kind of get to the next level? Now that he's not on the Dodgers, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Who on both teams can, Altuve is always fun to watch, but he's been there before and he hasn't, really become a household name. He's a fantastic baseball player for you if you're watching baseball on a yearly basis. But I think it's Seager. Seager would be the guy. To see Scherzer as an old vet, that's a great story coming off of an injury and getting there and performing again. So that's kind of what I root for here as we get out. But, you mentioned Corbin Carroll, and unfortunately for him, it's like a couple of years too early because I don't think people really know who he is yet, except if you're a hardcore baseball fan. You've been hearing about this guy forever, chasing his baseball cards and such. But Arizona just kind of snuck up on people. So the ability for him to make this big dent, I want to see it. I would love to see it because young players, you want, these young players who are able to play at a high level in postseason is always great. But I do think it's Bryce, maybe it's Seager. But I do want to see the kind of the bigger personalities or the bigger play, Mark Semien. I want to see those guys play on a high level so that sort of the casual baseball fan who doesn't care for a lot of the year, but then they come because it's the World Series, they go, oh my gosh, Bryce Harper is amazing, which is why it's so unfortunate that Shohei can't get into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the other thing too. Shohei in the playoffs, possibly next season, on the big stage next season. That would be absolutely amazing. So, and I think he thinks of that too. Obviously, he wants to go somewhere where he can win. And Arizona is kind of one of those teams too, and we see them every year. We've seen them every year for years. Honestly, they're winning baseball games, but they're not. They like you just mentioned too. They don't have that star power. They don't have those names. Zach Gallen. I mean, we know who Zach Gallen is. Baseball fans know who Zach Gallen is, but the world doesn't know who Zach Gallen is. Again, Corbin Carroll, the center fielder Thomas, Evan Longoria, like we know who he is. He's an older guy. He's on his way out, but he's still contributing. Ketel Marte. When you look up and down that lineup, you go, well, it's kind of a lot of no-name guys, but known in the baseball world. Everybody called us a boring team all season long, even when we were winning. Do you call the Diamondbacks a boring team because they just do the little things and win baseball games and play good defense? Are they a boring team? I don't think so. Personally, no. I don't think so. I mean,
if they steal bags, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that was our team, I'd say that's not a boring team. I don't care if you don't know who anybody is. I mean, when we won the World Series in 10, 12, and 14, we didn't have a lot of household names. I mean, you knew Tim Lincecum because, if you lived in Atlanta, you knew the guy with the long hair who pitched for the Giants. And that was kind of it. You did, Juan Uribe, all these guys just,
Cody Ross.
And man, it kind of wasn't an exciting team. But pitching wise, they just mowed people down. But if you're a fan of that team, you really don't care. Again, a lot of Giants fan called this Giants season very boring, a very boring team. But when they were winning, they were still winning, and they were still doing the little things and making things happen. So I don't know. I'd still like to see, again, 7 games. I don't really care who it is. But like you said, too, Bryce Harper getting a ring. I mean, he left the Nationals, and then the next year they go on and get a ring. And so he still doesn't have that ring yet. So for him to get one would be pretty cool.
It would be awesome. And, I forgot about it, even though you wouldn't say that Evan Longoria, you'd put him as a Ray before you'd put him as a Giant. But you still root for the guy. He was in the 08 World Series when the Rays were there against the Phillies, and they lost that World Series. And so he's back, how many is that? 15 years later as an elder statesman in the game.
Yeah.
And Zach Wheeler's just jamming him with sinkers on his hands, and he struck him out. But
Yeah,
that's another guy to root for, is Evan Longoria. Good Giant.
Yeah, and Zach Wheeler is kind of a curse word for Giants fans sometimes too. When you say his name, everybody kind of shudders and they go, "Oh!" But I looked at his numbers the other day. I think it was like last week. I was just kind of poking around at numbers because we talk about it all the time. We could go to Baseball Reference and get lost for hours. So I was like, Zach Wheeler. Let me see when he finally got good. He didn't actually get. Once he left the Mets and signed on with the Phillies, the 2020 season kind of is when he started to become a more than 8 or 9 K per 9 guy. I don't know what changed. Obviously being a Giants fan, we try to stay away from, hey, what has made Zach Wheeler so good? Because then we start to curse the name of Carlos Beltran, even though Carlos Beltran came over and did well. He got hurt. Yeah, things happen. It's 2011. But looking at Zach Wheeler. Yeah, it was a tough year, the whole Buster Posey thing. And then seeing Zach Wheeler pitch now, you go, hey, good, good for him. He found something in 2020 and has been just really dominating and just such a fun guy to watch. And yeah, I mean, you'd have to say, would he have done that with the Giants? I don't know. I mean, didn't he have Tommy John? I think he had Tommy John back at, a couple of years after we traded him with the Mets.
But I mean, no one likes to lose a trade.
No,
but if you root for your guys and your guy gets traded, you hope that he does well. I mean, maybe if he doesn't, maybe if he goes to the Dodgers, then you don't hope that he goes well. But
yeah.
I mean, I've never rooted against Zach Wheeler except when he pitched against us. So
yeah, exactly.
it's cool that he's doing well. He's an ace in today's baseball. All right, let's talk about the kind of the lead, which is Alyssa Nakken was interviewed for the managerial position of the San Francisco Giants. She was one of 3 internal candidates who got injured, according to all of the information that I've been able to find. It was her, it was Kai Correa, and it was Mark Halberg, who were internal candidates who were interviewed for this job. Now, not to say that neither of those 3 have a chance or whatever. They could have knocked it out of the park.
Sure.
In their interview.
Don't know unless you interview them.
Yeah. And, we just, from everything we know about all 3 people, really good inside the confines of the baseball diamond. And I do think that it's probably a little too early in Alyssa's career to be a big time manager, being that she doesn't have a lot of experience. But what she does have is, and this is what I found very interesting, is when she was hired, she said her goal was to basically climb the ladder. And so I don't know what that ladder looks like inside of the Giants coaching staff, but there are things that she has done with the team, and there are others that when she coached first base because of Anton Richardson got kicked out of a game, like that was a first, right? So to jump from that to manager would be quite a leap, and I think if that happened, it would be because she just killed the interview. The thing that's kind of against her, and I this is she would be a pioneer of all pioneers in baseball if she did become the manager. But I believe she's giving birth in February, so she's going to be a little bit out out by that time. And we both have children, so we know the amount of it's just giving birth. How hard that is, and how hard it is to come back from that. You need to rest, and you need to take your time and all that. So, and that is not even saying, being a parent for the first time and having a kid and dealing with that. So I loved it. I love the fact that she interviewed. I thought it was really cool. And the fact that they had, cause she wasn't named. Like we heard Correa, we heard Buster Posey's old roommate Halberg. And it's probably our own sort of unconscious bias that we didn't even think of Nakken as a possible candidate. But thankfully, Farhan did, and so that was really cool. I was glad to see that. And I know there are some skeptics, and Killian tweeted when it happened that she hopes that this wasn't like a PR stunt, because the Giants are struggling in that area, and they do need a little bit of goodwill from the fan base. So I don't think it was, because just the way that they put that team together, it sounds like she's very highly thought of, and so that I think that's pretty cool. But I would be really, really surprised if either of the three of them become manager. But it's probably great experience for them if
Right.
their ultimate goal is to become a big league manager. Like you go through it. This is the beginning stages of your what you want to do in your career. So any of those three would I would guess Correa would have the inside track if it was somebody from those three who would be manager. What do you think?
Yeah, I would think if you've got to go with those three, you probably look at Kai Correa. Although Hallberg does have managerial experience, he did manage Salem Kaiser. I think it was 2019. So he has managerial experience. Kai Correa does have 3 games in the bigs, though. The last
Yeah.
game, last series against the Dodgers. But yeah, so honestly, I think I would give the edge to Hallberg when it comes down to it. But when you look at overall, and you hit it well. In any organization, you want to at least give your people that experience to interview. Um, it's kind of a payback. Hey, it's possible all three of those candidates won't even be on the Giants coaching staff next season,
Yeah.
depending on who they bring in and who that person decides to to retain or build their own staff or do whatever it is that they do. But so you can almost look at it as an exit interview as well. But giving those three people the chance and the experience to interview for a major league job, and like you said, all of a sudden they could wow. This is somebody could sit there and Alyssa could be like just completely wow everybody. I mean, I have to kind of look at it as remember Sean McVay back in the NFL when he was kind of making the tours as the youngest guy. He was 32 years old, and I say Alyssa's 33. So
Yeah.
actually, if she was hired, not only would she be the first woman, I think she would be the youngest manager in the history of baseball. As far as I know, I haven't done any research, but I'd say modern history. At 33 years old, there's probably somebody that's younger, but that I can't think of right now. But that's very young. But McVay, just kind of went and made the rounds, and they thought, well, he's getting the experience, and he's going to be an offensive coordinator somewhere, and then he wowed the Rams, and the Rams said, you know what, let's do this, and things kind of worked out for the best. But to give all of them the experience, I think that's pretty awesome. And like you said too, yeah, she is having a child in February, and as you and I have seen firsthand, the moms are the workhorses. We're just kind of there to give support and help out in any possible way that we can. But the moms are doing the heavy lifting. The moms are doing everything that is super important. So she's probably going to want to be with the child, I would imagine, to have that bonding experience for a month or so.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
Spring training, starts in March or whatever. That would be pushing it if the delivery is in February. And here's the other thing about our wives and moms and mother of our children and our own moms is that like the body and the mind go through so much during that period. And this is why, like, whenever I talk to my wife about, how sort of unfair it is from in this world for females, I'm like, you had to deliver these children and immediately worry about going back to work and not overextend. Like that is not something that I would ever have to do. Yeah, I'll take some time off, got to help with the kid, but you're just right back in there. And she, you immediately go, okay, gotta think about my job, gotta make sure, I have all of my P's and Q's and all that. And then, just the functional physical thing about being a woman, and every month your body just kind of goes out of whack. It's just like, man, it is so unfair.
Oh, and the
for,
lack of
for women
sleep
compared
too.
to men.
Yeah, the lack of sleep and what it does to your mind. I mean, I just remember there were times, even me as a father, I didn't even know what time of day it was. Half the time I'd wake up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, what time is it? And the kid would be napping or whatever, but moms have it, they've got to
Yeah.
do the feeding and try to get some sleep. And then 6 weeks later, try to go to work. And we're like,
Yeah,
what is going?
I know.
I mean, all-stars, complete all-stars moms.
And you're like, I'm gonna go to work, and it's a little bit of a break, and then I'm gonna come
Sure.
home. But mom doesn't get a break. Like, mom is
No,
like,
no.
"What do you mean break? Like, this
Yeah.
is 24/7."
We would come home and here's baby. And then yeah, please go do what you got to do.
Okay, so from The Athletic, and I think this was part of Andy Baggerly's piece, is that potential external candidates include Stephen Vogt, Mark DeRosa, who was the Team USA manager, and even perhaps Bob Melvin. Now, Bags was a little like eyebrows raised at the whole kumbaya-ness of the San Diego Padres statement from a couple weeks ago. You and I were like, oh, that means Melvin's off the table. He's like, I'm not sure. That might just mean you're going to have to give us something to get Bob. And still, Bob is my favorite candidate, but also seems like maybe the hardest to bring over. The other thing about Bob is I think if you believe your team is kind of ready to go to the next level, he's the guy. I'm not sure the Giants are ready to go to the next level unless they believe they're going to hit a home run in free agency and have a couple of big trades to be made. You have to take it at what it is, which is 3 out of the last 4 years, they've been pretty much a 500 ball club, and they had the great year 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I sort of look at them as a 500 ball club. And does a 500 ball club go from 80 wins or 79 wins to 90 wins in 1 year? We did in 21, we after the pandemic. But is that it? Do you bring in a Bob as a long-term sort of candidate, or do you look at it like Texas looked at it with Bochy, which is we've invested so much money into this roster. We have these really good players who are ready to blossom, and we just need that guy who's going to make it work like clockwork and put it all together, and you hire Bochy. I don't know if the Giants are at that level yet. I think Bob Melvin is the best candidate. I think Vogt and DeRosa kind of leave us in a little bit of a Kapler situation where, there's going to be some growing pains with the roster and the manager because they are first-time guys. What is your overall feeling on this entire situation?
I looking at Bob Melvin, I'll just take kind of Bob Melvin out of the equation, but I can see that as a possibility. I think Baggerly said they would have to trade for him or kind of eat his contract, and he's like $4 million a year or something like that. So quite a bit. The thing with Bob Melvin is he's a Bay Area guy, played for the Giants, managed the A's, played for the A's too, I believe. And he did a really, really good job with the A's when it came to youth. The A's were turning over the roster, a lot of young guys coming up. He got the most out of the young players. They were exciting teams. They were fun to watch. I think he's having a hard time maybe in San Diego because you've got guys who have already established themselves in the majors. You got Machado, Tatis, and Yu Darvish, and all those guys, Blake Snell. They're kind of do what they do, and maybe he was a little too hands off and just said, you guys are major leaguers, do what you do.
Yeah,
maybe his strength is with the youth, and if that's the case, that's what the Giants are looking at on their roster. So maybe Bob Melvin is like a 2-year, 3-year stopgap type of manager for the Giants. So that's a possibility. That's where I see the possibility of Bob Melvin. Stephen Vogt, I think, is very intriguing. I think I would like to see him as the next Giants manager. The thing is, he just finished playing. We have zero idea what his managerial skills would be like. Zero idea how he would handle platoons or anything like that. But being a former major league catcher, he with a pitching staff, he might be really, really good. And that's what the Giants kind of lacked the last couple of seasons. It was more, here's an opener.
you mean Gabe and Farhan aren't really all that thoughtful about how to use a pitching staff when it comes to, the feelings of these pitchers?
Yeah, and Gabe got fired from Philadelphia because he didn't know how to manage a bullpen. So I mean, having a guy like Vogt, who's a former catcher, and I could think of 3 other Giants catchers who have been managers. What is it? Bob Melvin, Bob Brenly, and I can't think of his name right now. Cardinals manager was
Yeah, Mike Matheny.
Mike Matheny. Yes, so those are 3 others that I can think of who are former Giants catchers who became managers. I mean, Bochy was a catcher, but he never caught for the Giants. I'm sure I'm missing some other ones, but
You mean Terry Kennedy never coached for the Giants? He never managed the Giants. Kurt Manwaring never managed for the Giants.
No, so TK, did he ever? TK managed here in Reno. He managed
no way.
The Reno Silver Sox, which was a kind of an independent Golden Baseball League team, and that was fun.
There you go.
I yelled out his name a couple of times. Terry Kennedy, we love you. But to have a former catcher as a manager, I think is an exciting prospect. I would like to see that. I mean, we've seen what some other former catchers have done. Bob Melvin, Bruce Bochy. We've seen the success that they've had in the past, and right now for Bochy. But yeah, I mean, it could be an exciting hire. I think I'd be all on board on that one. But Donnie Ecker, also another one.
We heard that one today as well. The one thing that you wonder about bringing an outsider who has never managed in the big leagues, because I think if you're Nakken and your Correa and your Halberg, you go, okay, I get it. Bob Melvin, great manager, has been successful in this business. He comes in and he jumps over us. That makes a whole lot of sense. Sure. You have Vogt, you have DeRosa. That's a little bit of a, I'm not sure if they necessarily are more qualified than we are. So that's always an interesting part of the political part of it. I'm sure when Gabe came in, him being a former manager did help when it came to putting him in that spot over other folks. But first-time managers are tough, right? Especially if they have not. Being a ball player is paying your dues. I'm not saying that it isn't. That is a big part of it, but figuring out how to deal in the way and working with baseball ops and kind of that whole thing, there's learning curves involved. Now, Vogt may come into the interview and just be like, I just got all these ideas and blow, Farhan away in the nerd sense, right? Just, oh my gosh, this guy's got he's got the ex-ball player and he's got the clubhouse and these guys are going to love him. And then he knows, all the things that we love and baseball ops and what we're looking for. And then, the thing that Farhan also said, the thing that is maybe even the most important is the recruiting aspect of it. Maybe he needs to, who we need to bring in. We need to bring in Coach Prime. Coach Prime will get Shohei. Yeah. If we had Coach Prime now, I'm being facetious, but let's put this together here. Deion Sanders was traded to the Giants in 1995. Right. He played on a bad team. Yeah. Was it 94 or 95? I don't exactly remember the time frame, but it's right around that time frame.
Yeah.
He had just played for the 49ers, just won a Super Bowl. So he was kind of in the Bay for 1 year before then he went and signed with Dallas. And then he was a bad guy to us. But he played that, the end of that year with the Giants. And so there's a little bit of a tie there. He's been a All-Pro, Hall of Fame, NFL player. He was a really good baseball player. And bring him in, and you're like, hey, Coach Prime, the best recruiter out there, he's gonna get Shohei. I'm in. Like, and see, the thing about Coach Prime though is what you're gonna have to do is just like when he played baseball and football, he's kind of like you don't have him for the whole time, so he's gonna be coaching and recruiting in Colorado or wherever he goes next. And then you get him in baseball, but you don't get him like full time. So you're going to have
you just get him as a recruiter.
Yeah. You're like Ron Wotus. You're really going to like be there the whole time. We're bringing you in and you're going to be the guy, but you got to deal with Coach Prime, and he's going to have his ideas, but then he's going to take this call because his son Shadur is going into these draft camps, and he's got to prepare.
Oh,
so
I was about to say, does Shadur have to play center field for him if we get Dion? Is that how that works?
That might be a positive. I bet you he can run down some fly balls better than some of the guys that we saw last year. You know what? I'm clipping this and putting it on YouTube. We're gonna have a Coach Prime is the next San Francisco Giants manager clip for YouTube. People are going to go, what is this crazy news? Yeah. And then they're going to hear us have this silly conversation. But,
sorry for the clickbait.
They have, they're selling his sunglasses, the Coach Prime sunglasses.
I've seen those. Now, when we went to Disneyland 2 weeks ago, Coach Prime sunglasses were everywhere, man. Everybody was wearing them. And the big Oakleys now that took over, like it used to be the Blades.
Yeah.
Those things that Tatis wears.
Yeah.
Holy moly, you can't see people's faces with those things on.
Okay, so do you respect me more or less knowing that I pre-ordered some Coach Prime sunglasses?
Hey, man, I want to see him on you first. I'm not going to tell you until I see him on you.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I wear an old school Oakley pair from like years and years and years ago. I think they're called the eye jackets, and it's because I have a little bit of a wide face. So some sunglasses, they like are so tight that they just pinch my temples. And so I can't necessarily wear them. So I bought these Coach Prime ones on a lark. I'm just assuming they're not going to fit properly, and I'm going to have to go back to my old Oakley 2005 eye jackets. But I had to get them. I had to pre-order them. I'm on the Coach Prime bandwagon. So
I've got a brand that I like that I have to order because mine is so smashed right here. Like if I put on Oakleys, they look like they're out here. Like I look like I got, I could put two faces inside of my Oakley glasses. There's only certain types, and I really have to try them on. So I get you, but I want to see these primes on you.
Yeah.
But if you put them on and they look good, you need to submit your resume to the San Francisco Giants for manager, because if you look the part, that's all that matters sometimes.
Yeah, I will submit my application and go, this is for the managerial position, but really, Brad and I just want to host the official Giants team podcast. That's really what I want to do.
That, and we'd love to be there on Fan Day.
Yes,
Fan Fest. We want free tickets to Fan Fest so we could just kind of walk around, check.
Yeah, we'll interview people, and Cole and Carmen. Like we'll just be in that Rat Pack, right?
Yeah,
we'll just be with those folks, but we'll just have like the official podcast, and
absolutely,
and that would be fun. All right, let's get back to something a little bit more serious. So, this is Davis, aka Drip. He was with Rod and I last night after the 49ers sadly sort of came back to earth a little bit. Brock Purdy's balloon, that someone poked a little tiny hole in it.
Oh, you're going to have if you're a good team, I can vouch for this, the Rams a few years ago. If you're a good team, you're going to have weird games, man. You're just going to have really weird games where you're like, I don't know what that was. And then next week, all of a sudden, as a Rams fan, I could say, then Kurt Warner throws 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and you win 52-10.
Yes,
so,
yeah. So, but Davis was hanging out with us and chiming in about the game, and so his comment is, "Will Dion be able to get us Bryce Harper this time?" Well, Bryce Harper signed like a 45-year contract with the Phillies, so it would have to be on a trade. But Shohei is the guy. Shohei is the Bryce Harper and more. Now, he's not going to be able to pitch for a year at least, and maybe that's for the better. Maybe he just becomes like power closer to save his arm a little bit. And you just call him. You just, whoever's the manager, Bob Melvin, just goes out in the ninth inning and just goes like this. And then you see the guy, from right field just run in. He just like runs in and he's the closer. But yeah, that would be a lot of fun if we could get a big name player thanks to
Get you a
thanks to a good
3-inning
recruiter.
save, man.
Okay,
That's what I'd like to see come back, the 3-inning saves.
okay, so I wanted to go. Well, this will be pretty much the rest of this podcast. I wanted to go through. Andrew Baggerly wrote a really fun piece. I mean, not fun. It's a really good piece, but it sort of is perfect for podcasting. So he went through 10 things the Giants have to do, and we just talked about this first one already, so we don't need to go over this one, which was hire a manager. That's what they need to do. The next one is assemble a coaching staff because of all the folks that they will possibly lose. They lost Brian Bannister already. He wrote that Andrew Baggerly, who is an East Coaster, could be a candidate for the vacancy with the Boston Red Sox, which is pretty interesting. And so you need to retain, or you need to put together a coaching staff. Now, this doesn't necessarily, it's not something we can necessarily talk about a ton because the manager isn't in place yet. Once the manager's in place, you could then raise this. But I wanted to bring up one thing. So, assistant coach. Now I'm screwing up this name. Taira Uematsu, who Bags described as a tireless worker who also happens to be the first major league coach in history who was born and raised in Japan, could be a handy recruiting edge when pursuing free agent pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And I don't know if you've seen any of the pitching ninja stuff on Yamamoto, but it's just
Sick.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
Like that, that's kind of someone who I think most fans would not really know or would not even think about when it comes to who you want. Cause obviously it's going to be Shohei, it's going to be Bellinger. And then it kind of drops out. I don't know. Are we into the Donaldson or the, who's the third baseman? That's
Matt Chapman.
Matt Chapman. Are we into the Chapman thing? I don't know.
Might as well kick the tires on everybody at this point.
Yeah, he had like 200. Is he any better than JD Davis at this point?
Good. He's a vacuum at third. So,
true.
I mean, if you need
defensively,
defense,
yeah, true. So just putting that out there. Yamamoto, we got the Uematsu possibility there. Maybe that helps, recruit Yamamoto. So that's really cool. All right, now number 3 is the opt-out decisions. So Ross Stripling has already said that he is going to probably come back, and Bags believes Manaea pitched well enough to springboard him into free agency. So he expects Manaea not to opt in. It doesn't mean that the Giants cannot bring him back. It just means that he has Manaea is the one who has the leverage in this situation. And then he writes that it's Conforto whose decision will have the domino effect. Yeah. He wrote that Conforto, and this is I'll quote this, quote, Conforto has said that he appreciated how the Giants treated him. He's a Seattle area native. His wife is from Oregon, and they live a few miles from the Giants spring training facility in Scottsdale, Arizona. So he has reasons to stay, even if economic factors are likely to pull the Scott Boras client back onto the open market. If he stays, the Giants will have an outfield logjam on their hands and not necessarily a good one. Do you hope that Conforto opts in or opts out?
At this point, honestly, I hate to say it, but I hope he opts out. I mean, if he opts in and has a fantastic year, that's great. But if he opts out, like Baggerly said, I didn't really think about the logjam in the outfield, but I would hate for him opting in to force us to have to do something with Yaz or Slater. Slater just had surgery too, but I think he's supposed to be, he had a chip in his elbow. I think.
Elbow surgery.
Yeah, and so he should be fine by spring training. But still, I'd hate for the Giants to have to move one of those guys, to make room for, hey, we've got Conforto, he's coming back, because Conforto's only going to come back for 1 year. So at this point, I kind of hope he does opt out, give the Giants a little more freedom in the outfield. Like Baggerly said too, we can go out and try to find somebody else. If you can swap out Conforto and Bellinger, I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
Season. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the worry, right? Which is we hope that Conforto opts out because we believe, or we hope that they could find a better fit for the current team.
Sure.
Not someone who's old, not someone who's, coming off of an injury and maybe not all that great defensively or fleet of foot. Maybe, we want these more athletic players, as Zaidi keeps telling us that we're getting. But I do worry that if you go, okay, Conforto, he opts out. He's someone we actually convinced to bring in.
Yeah.
And then they have trouble bringing in the guy who they want to replace those innings there. One thing I didn't think about, if you do, now this is a little bit of a long shot, right? I know Pete Alonso was out there. He probably is not looking to come to San Francisco because, 10 of the 40 home runs he expects to hit are going to die in left center.
Yeah. Although he's strong enough.
He is.
I don't know.
He's the best home run derby guy I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah.
You could move late night to the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
He has flexibility to play out there. So that is an option. If you do lose Conforto and you find a first baseman, then maybe late night becomes the Conforto replacement in the outfield. So just something to think about there. All right. So now, number 4 is the tender decisions. The Giants have 6 arbitration-eligible players who are forecasted to make roughly $29 million if all are tendered contracts, according to MLBTradeRumors.com. Bags believes that this will not be a problem. They will re-up everybody here. But he also mentioned, and this is something I didn't even think about, and I'll quote him again here. Quote, as for second baseman Thairo Estrada and right-hander Tyler Rogers, both should be candidates for multi-year extensions, at least through their remaining arbitration years. Zaidi acknowledged the importance of continuity while evaluating where things went wrong in 2023 and said part of the offseason plan would be to agree to more long-term contracts among free agents and players already in the system. Hey, what do you know? Players usually perform better when they have a sense of stability, end quote. What do you think about Thairo being the long-term solution at second base? Would you want to tie several more years down the line to Thairo being the guy?
I would, honestly. I mean, his defensive metrics were great this year. I like his speed. I like his attitude. Yeah, absolutely. I would not have a problem with Thairo Estrada, Marco Luciano combo up the middle for the next few years. Zero problems with that.
And I do wonder, now this will be some, this would have been a great question for Jarrett. Does Thairo have more trade value with options and on an ARB deal or on a contract that you can actually predict and sort of play out on your books? That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that.
I would think with ARB years and with flexibility, I would think he would have more value because then a turnaround would be a lot easier. Because if you got him on a set contract and all of a sudden he was underwhelming and things just weren't working out, you're on that set contract. There's not a whole lot you can do. But if you're looking at ARB years, you can say, well, he's only got 2 ARB years left, and then he's an unrestricted free agent, and he's kind of hit the dumper, so we can move him. So I would think having those arbitration years and having some flexibility would be more sexy, so to speak.
Okay. And Tyler Rogers has been excellent for 3 years now, and so I don't think this is any sort of like luck. No. Like I think he's sort of figured it out, and I would be fine with him, being on this team. He's not going to be a closer. We know that. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a situational guy, and he's going to help them clean up some innings in some instances. And he's not going to be somebody who strikes out 2 guys for every inning. There's going to be some ball in play aspect of it, and they're just going to have to improve. They're continually improving their defense. Is going to help all of the pitching staff. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, number 5, evaluate your own free agents. They're probably picking up the $10 million club option on Alex Cobb, which we have talked about already. And that based off of his season last year, even if it isn't as good as he was in 2023. $10 million is probably a bargain for what he's going to do, as long as he doesn't get injured and pull a De Sclafani on us. He's got that hip thing that he's got to figure out. And as you are getting older, I say that as somebody who went to the doctor today.
Oh, no.
And the doctor was like, so this was about my knees. So I dislocated my kneecap when I was 29 playing semi-pro. And since then, my right knee has just been a pain to deal with. And, I remember I'd actually injured one of my knees before that. No. This was the same injury. Doc goes, "Hey man, you may not want to buy a house with stairs. It's going to be problematic for you as you get older." I was like, "Dude,
come on.
I have a house with stairs. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, my bad." So anyways, I have moderate arthritis in both of my knees, and I have to get some gel put into they're going to shoot it into my knees. They said, we could either shoot cortisone or this gel. This gel's probably a little bit safer. It'll push you, off a few years, because eventually you're going to have to get both of your knees replaced.
Oh, good Lord.
So, that is what I get for trying to play competitive sports into my 30s.
Yeah.
It's just these bad knees. But so I say that with Cobb as someone who is, look, I'm older than Cobb, obviously, but dealing with injuries as you get older is not easy. So this little hip thing could become something bigger. It could become a problem with the other hip because you're favoring one, and then it could cause a hamstring. Like, there's just so many things as you get older that, you don't even think about, because you always think that you're young and that you're going to just be able to fight through it. So not that I don't want to jeopardize Alex Cobb in any way, but just that, it's not necessarily easier said, it's easier said than done. The Giants also could lose Brebbia, Scott Alexander, Alex Wood, and Jacob Junis. So those are possibilities for them to lose those guys. But Bags believes they have internal depth to backfill those potential losses. And then we bring in none other than Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson, Bags writes, you can't sign a left-handed DH if you're serious about making a run at Shohei. So any Jock Peterson conversation would have to be after they believe that they're not in the Shohei game. And if you are in the Shohei game, you do sign Shohei, you probably send a fruit basket to the Peterson family and say, "Hey, y'all, appreciate your 2 years. We kind of got the guy that we want. And, good luck. And thanks for everything that you've done." So that is Jock. And then, Brennan Crawford, he hasn't said that he's retired, but I can't imagine that the Giants decide to bring him back in any way if he is willing to play another year.
Yeah. And I hate to even say it too, but I can't imagine another team is like, let's take a shot. We need a shortstop and we need an older shortstop who's lost a step. And, again, I feel sacrilegious saying all this stuff.
What if the dude is just like, you know what? I'm dedicating my entire offseason. I'm dropping 20 and I'm getting lean. Because not to say that he was a heavy guy, but
no.
There's a decided difference in what he looked like, the previous 10 years versus this year. Like, he's just a bigger dude, and some of that obviously is age. We know what that feels like, though. For some reason, you've been able to like get smaller as you've gotten older. You've like reversed like what normally happens.
Well, that's because you got to get yourself some heart disease. That's what you got to do. You got to hit 50. The whole family history thing catches up to you, and they're like, "Hey, you got to watch it, pal." So then you start cutting the saturated fats and the carbs and all that other good stuff, and eating lots of lean protein.
Yeah.
So I think I weigh right now as much as I did my senior year of high school, and I'm 50 years old. But I'd like to put on a little bit more weight because I think I got a little eccentric there. So putting on another 5 pounds of like lean protein meat would be
Yeah.
good, so.
Yeah. All right. So the free agents that they kind of have to figure out, they don't seem to be hard decisions to me.
Yeah, Really not. I mean, it's not like it was last year and the year before where we had a lot of decisions to make and we're like, do you keep this guy? Do you ditch this guy? Carlos Rodon, do we bring him back? And Gossman, do we bring him back? I mean, obviously now you look at hindsight, you go, bring Gossman back. Maybe don't bring back Rodon, even though it was just one season of injuries and ugliness for Rodon this year with what was his ERA? Close to 7? Was it exactly 7? Somewhere around there?
I just know that he like turned to the pitching coach who came out. He's just like gave him the back. He's like,
yeah.
About you.
he pitched in 14 games this year. So I mean, you can look at all that stuff. This year, I think it's pretty easy, clear, cut, and dry. Personally, I don't want Jock Peterson back. He's run his course. He had one really great, fun season with us. Other than that, it's kind of been a liability because you have to put him in the outfield. Giants have already said we want to get younger and we want to get faster. They've got enough outfielders in the minors now where they can test some of these guys out. You can throw Ramos out there. You can throw Meckler out there. You could throw Matos out there. I mean, you got guys you can move around in the outfield. So, I like what Bag said, unless the Giants, are still in love with Jock Peterson's exit velocity, he's pretty much gone. And I agree with that. So, but yeah, all the other guys, I mean, you're not going to bring back Brandon Crawford unless you bring him back on the coaching staff. I mean, heck, if he does announce his retirement, maybe he is a guy, not for manager, but maybe he's a guy that comes back on the coaching staff or somewhere in the organization. Guy's got enough money. Maybe he buys in like Buster Posey does, becomes a part owner. Right? I mean, that'd be great to have those guys just kind of, and then Bumgarner, who's got enough money, he comes back and he does the same thing. And you got, you've got
you need the guy to get mad every once in a while to get fired up at everybody.
Yeah. Just have Bumgarner walk into the clubhouse when they're on a losing streak and change that around real quick. So not a lot of tough decisions.
Posey's like, hey, Bum, things aren't we need someone to fire us up. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to walk in to the clubhouse. Whatever you see on a table, whatever you see, just throw it in the air and just walk out. And then on your way out, just fire out a snot rocket.
There you go.
They'll feel that.
I love that.
By the way, Davis, aka Drip, who is also on Twitter at Davis, aka Drip. His Twitter title is the podcast dropout. I'm gonna have to ask him about that. But he said, "This old man talk, no disrespect, is hitting home for me." And then in parentheses, I'm not even 30 yet.
Oh no, come
Davis,
on.
my man. You got your years. Do something. Do something with them. We would do anything to get back to those years.
God, I remember. I don't even think I had a kid yet at 30. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. For some reason, we are not turning away the young man demographic here. So
no,
we're doing something.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
All right, so we'll stop here at 5. And just quickly talk about our drink, and then we'll pick up the 6 to 10. I have people who listen to this show know my story of the Scotch subscription service that my wife got for me. And
please tell me you got something different.
Well, so they sent me the same bottle 3 times in a row after we told them like what's going on.
You've already sent us.
And so what happened is they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry," and they say, They go, "Yeah, just send us back the bottles." And my wife is like, usually when companies like, they send you something to then send the bottles back. You just want to like, "Oh, just put it in a box. Like, this is a bottle. You don't want, So they're like, "Oh, okay. Like, we'll sort of figure it out." And in the meantime, they did send me 2 other bottles of different, but this is the first one that they sent me, the Alexander Murray, which is awesome. And I love it. So, having 3 bottles of this is great.
Not a problem.
And then they sent me 2 of the other bottles, which is great. And we'll see if they eventually send me anything to send those other bottles back. I don't imagine they will. So I just kind of got 5 bottles of Scotch for the price of 3.
Well, drink them and just tell them, sorry, man. You waited too long.
Send them the empty bottles.
Yeah, there you go. Here they are.
Get Get your service correct next time. Signed, M. Bumgarner.
Fill it with apple juice.
Yeah,
Send
there
it
you
back
go.
to him.
So that's what I'm drinking. The Alexander Murray, which is excellent, and it is fantastic. And I'm so happy that my wife got me this subscription.
Nice.
2001, by the way. It's Alexander Murray,
Oh.
2001.
Oh my goodness. All right. I wish I would have poured a scotch now tonight, but I did go, like I told you last week, life's too short. I'm not gonna really kind of hang on to the good stuff so much
Yeah.
anymore. I
Yeah.
busted out the old Forester 1920. It gets fuzzy there. The 1920 Prohibition style. It's 57.5% alcohol.
Wow.
It's a meaty drinker, 115 proof. But oh my goodness, it is absolutely fantastic. Got this for the 50th birthday. Yeah, someday, Davis, you're gonna hit 50 and you're gonna get awesome, you're gonna get awesome gifts like this,
Yes.
man. And you're gonna hang on to them and you're gonna put them on the shelf, and then you're gonna go, I'm 50,
Yeah.
so I don't want to sit on that too long because you never know what could happen.
Yeah. So I think the way that Davis found me is through the wrestling stuff that I do. So it's
Nice.
possible that I may see Davis in the flesh at some point, because wrestling
there you go.
travels. We all go to these big time shows. So maybe I'll take a picture with Davis and put it on our BSPN.
Well, you know what
Instagram.
we got to get going is just like a BSPN podcasters trip to Vegas sometime.
Yeah, Rod, who does the We Want Winners with me,
Mhm.
he lived in Vegas for some time. Yeah, so he wasn't that far from you, I'm sure, during a time when you were in Reno. And, Bry will go to Vegas. Vegas is not Bry's favorite spot. He has learned this, but, for NBA stuff, for Summer League, he was out there. We're thinking about going for the NBA in-season tournament. The finals are going to be in Vegas in December. That might be a little harder. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if we're going to be able to pull it off, but
yeah,
Vegas would be awesome. And the one, if you actually make it to the Bay Area, the one time that I've been dying for you to come out here, I will get everybody together, because Rod is, I believe Rod is in Oakland, Brian's in San Francisco, I'm in Sunnyvale, not too far from where you grew up. So if you do make it out here, we'll do something for sure.
Where we were discussing it, I was trying to get Olivia Rodrigo tickets for the kids. It did not go well. All I could find was single tickets every now and then that pop up for $500 on the floor. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing, because it was going to be in, I think it was like August of next year. And I thought that's perfect, because then we can do that, go to a Giants game.
Hell yeah.
Didn't quite work out, but we're still trying to figure it out. I still need to get out to a Giants game. It's been a long time. So
did you guys go see the Taylor movie?
You know what? My 16-year-old did on Saturday night. So she was going to go with her boyfriend, and then he couldn't make it. So I was like, well, if you can't find anybody, I'll go hang out with you. I'll go check it out. But then her good friend is also a Taylor fan. They wore their matching Taylor Swift cardigan purple sweaters.
There you go.
To the show. They said everybody was singing. They went Saturday night, said it was a blast. So I'm very excited for that. I would love to see it coming on streaming. If it hits Disney Plus, I'm going to crank that up, man. I love concert movies. Really.
Yeah, my stepdaughter, she's interested. She's only 8, though. My worry is that we're there, we got the popcorn, and then at halfway through, she's just like, all right, I'm done. Like, this is just too much. Like, all these, all these girls dancing in front of the big screen. But maybe if we bring one of her friends who that could help. But yeah, I want to see it just because, I remember when Michael Jackson died, they did the concert movie for This Is It, which was, he had a film crew kind of film the everything building up to this one last concert tour he was going to do in London, and then hopefully bring it to the US. And he passes away before the concerts happen. And so he had all like the stuff in earlier, and they made it into that movie. I kind of want to watch that movie again, but me and Brian and JJ, gosh, they were probably like 8 and 9, and now they're in their early 20s. and we all went. We had to see MJ on the big screen. So I'm with you. I think it'd be really cool, especially in IMAX if you get the IMAX
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. So I think it'd be cool.
Well, and my oldest did say that there were girls about your daughter's age, 8 years old, 9 years old, down front in their dresses and their tailored dresses dancing. So, that might keep her interest for a
Yeah.
while too. Head
Yeah.
on down there and do some dancing with the other girls. So,
Yeah. All right. Let's go. The last 5 here. Number 6. We'll go through these quickly. Winter ball decisions: Casey Schmidt, Marco Luciano, and Luis Matos. All need development. We all know this. Matos, he's a little slim right now. He could probably put on a little bit of weight. Luciano just needs more reps. He's had the back injury. Casey Schmidt just needs someone to throw him curveballs and high fastballs out of the zone. And he's he's like a character from Major League. Like, just you throw the fastball within his strike zone, and he's gonna put some good wood on it. And you throw the ball above his eyes, and he's gonna still swing at it, and he's gonna miss. So I guess they didn't want Luciano to play winter ball just because of the injuries he's had, but it looks like he may play a little bit in Dominican. Schmidt, that they were thinking about it, but it looks like he will just play at the Papago at the I guess, what is it? Is that where they're
Arizona?
Yeah.
Right?
So that's where their facility
Just
is.
kind of, that's their facility. It's kind of their minor league off site from their regular stadium where they do a lot of rehab stuff. Yeah.
And then they said Matos was going to go back to Venezuela to spend time with his family, and he'll play a little bit in Venezuela. So cross your fingers that A, nobody gets hurt, and B, that they get some good reps, and that Schmidt can get something out of playing at the facility. And those are really the guys, as far as guys who were on the big league roster and who played, and you're kind of looking forward to them next year, going like, okay, I know they're going to be on the team. Like, let's see what happens in their sophomore seasons. Yeah. All right, this is the big one. Be big time players in free agency. Where do the Giants start? Well, Ohtani, obviously. We talked about Yamamoto.
You could start and end with Ohtani, honestly, and you'd have a successful offseason.
And then we talked about it, Chapman and Bellinger. Those are kind of the next guys. And the thing about that is, even if they only hit similarly to what the Giants players hit in those spots last year, defensively, they're an upgrade. So that's kind of, I don't know. We'll see how much money it costs to bring in a Cody Bellinger. If you got to sign him for, 8 years for $260 million, maybe it's not as interesting of a deal. But that's what free agency is, right? You're building up, and he had the right season at the right time,
and he's 20
go into free agency.
28 years old. If you sign him to a 10-year deal, that's not the most terrible thing. You're not talking about a pitcher. You're not talking about a catcher who might break down. You're talking about a center fielder with a good glove. So at least you're still kind of paying for a glove later on down the line, hopefully.
Yeah. And Chapman, he hit 240 with 17 home runs. So not great. He is 30 as well. So he's probably not going to break the bank off of those numbers, but he's probably going to be, because of the fact that there's not a ton of guys out there who are the big free agents, he's going to get some looks for sure. But Bags talked about a guy. I don't know. I'll talk about ruining some names here. There's this one's actually pretty easy. A Korean star center fielder, Jung-Hoo Lee, from the Kiwoom Heroes, 25 years old, and he is coming to the bigs. And the interesting thing about this is there was a video that was that showed him in his last at bat for the Heroes. And who is in that video? Very a short little quick view of Giants GM Pete Patilla in the video. Nice. So he was scouting Jung-Hoo Lee. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And, we'll see, I think we looked at someone like Seiya from last year, like, oh, we really, really want him. And he had a he had a pretty good year. He didn't hit 50 home runs or anything, but I think he was a plus player. He kind of screwed up at the end of the year for the Cubs, but you look at these players who are coming from overseas, and there's just more information about them, more, okay, these guys can adapt, their skills adapt from these different leagues. And if you can play, you can play, and that kind of thing. Cause I think, for Giants folks, they're like, you think of some of the players from the past who they've tried to grab who haven't worked out well. Who was the guy that they traded from the Mets, the Japanese center, Shinjo?
Yeah.
Shioshi Shin, yeah, and he
now.
I know what is up with him.
He's a star manager over there.
Yeah,
he is like the flashy. He is the prime of I believe the Japanese League baseball managers, pretty much.
Yeah. No, but he was decent defensively, not a good offensive player. But when you think about it, and that, how many years ago? This was 20 something years ago. The game, like these players who are playing overseas, they're building their skill set to cross over. And so they know that their goals are to come over and make the big bucks. So, now I think, you see these high level players from the Nippon League, and, from Japan, from Korea, and you go, are they going to be good in the bigs? This is where the best players are. I think they're going to be good. Like, you see, we watch the World Baseball Classic, and those players can play. So I would love for them to even go, further into finding some of these players who, maybe everybody doesn't know are coming. Like, I want us to double down on Korean League and finding guys in Japan, because if they don't work out, so be it. I don't know how much of that money counts against, whatever you're trying to keep your number under, if you have to pay the teams or whatever for guys, whatever it is. Like, I think there's ways that you can make it work to your advantage. So I would love to see them double down and just bring over folks from overseas and such.
Well, and the Giants are a big market team. I mean, that's the bottom line. And they've got money this year. They now have money. So this is, they've freed it up. They've got a ton of money floating around out there. So the time to use it is now. Just go out there and spend that money. Get whoever you can, get people in the seats, get excitement in the city again. The international players, whatever it is, bring them all in, make a team and play some exciting baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to group these together. 8 and 9, get younger and more athletic. We've talked about that constantly all year long.
All year long.
They're probably bringing back, 60% of the guys that are going to be back on the team were on the team last year. So the folks who are not from last year's roster, you really do have to upgrade in the athletic ability of the newer players, and also be active on the trade front. Who's out there? There are teams who are open to trading guys, and Bags talks about the Brewers, Corbin Burns and Woodruff, but was it Burns that got hurt and he's going to be out for next year? Or was it Woodruff?
It's Woodruff.
Yeah. So Woodruff is kind of off the table. I think that this happened before Bags wrote his piece, but he also writes about Willy Adames. Like, what would it take to bring in somebody like Adames? Because the Brewers don't keep stars until free agency. They usually kind of dump them right before their free agency is concerned. So that's kind of the way that they're looking for it. And then the last thing is get on the same page. And I think that's the big thing, right? You have Zaidi, who is kind of in a lame duck year, unless he just blows the doors off and we're back to 2021 and he puts together this fantastic roster. But Buster Posey, has a little bit of a bigger voice now. But this organization needs an identity. And I think if your identity is Buster Posey more so than Farhan Zaidi to the public and to the fan base, that is so much better and it could you could still be the same organization. You could still be, Zaidi wheeling and dealing, and the way he analyzes players, and Patilla scouting all these guys. You can still have the same organization. You just need some wins. But I would love to see Buster be a little bit more at the forefront of this entire thing.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think Giants fans want to see that. I think they need to see that. They need to see his stamp on this search, because I think they'd feel more comfortable. Just the fact that Buster Posey became an owner, I think, made Giants fans more comfortable, and can kind of stomach the situation that we're going through right now. And again, I don't think it's a terrible situation. I still think Zaidi, and I still think everybody he has in place right now is still good for the organization, and I still think there's promise. I'm not one of those fire Zaidi, fire Kapler, maybe fire Kapler. I was fine with that. I still think what Zaidi has done for the minor league system, and everything else that he's doing right now for the organization, I think keep going the course, but let's see who we get in there as manager before we make decisions.
All right, last thing we will have on this show, and we'll get out of here. Davis, our guy Davis, says, speaking of getting older, if Ohtani were to sign, are you scared that the injuries so far will slow him down sooner? I'm not, just based off the way that he's wired. He probably is not going to have a long career as a pitcher, is my guess. He's a really good athlete. He's a big dude. He's a strong dude. So I think the bat will translate into his older years. But anytime you sign a guy for double-digit years, you are understanding that probably the end of that contract is not going to be pretty, and just hoping that based on the advancements of where baseball is in those 10 years, that contract is not as unaffordable as it could be if if the sport doesn't grow. So I think that's where they would look in 2034, if he is a marginal player, or if he is a replacement level player, and you're paying him $50 million, and the average salary is so much more in 10 years than it is today, then it's not as big of a deal. But yeah, I mean, you should be concerned, but you're front loading, even though the pay is, you're paying them yearly, you're kind of just front loading the idea of we are paying him for 6 years or 8 years, not really 10. And we're just kind of, that those last 2 years, we're just going to take the hit. And hopefully by then the economics of baseball will be so that we're not completely screwed.
You can also market an older Ohtani better than you can market an older Correa. And I think you could say the same for Bryce Harper. I think some of those guys are going to be more marketable. You're still going to get people in the seats, even though they're older, not as good as they used to be. But like you said, too, hitting wise, he's going to hang on for a long time. Pitching wise, hey, man, like you said, too, a closer.
Smoltz, baby. That's what Smoltz
turned into
did
a John Smoltz.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
And so Brad sent me a little tweet about Shinjo.
Isn't that fantastic?
The Nippon Ham Fighters. He says that
this was 2 years ago.
Yeah. He wants people to call him the big boss. I'm in. You better call that man the big boss.
Heck yeah.
All right. We are done here. A little bit longer than I thought, but I thought that Baggs' article was so interesting, and it was a nice little ending, sort of the cap on the season for us as we look towards the manager, new manager being hired, and then free agency coming. And I don't know, Diamondbacks making a little bit of a comeback here. It is now 5-2, and they got they've been hitting Zach Wheeler a little bit better as we are in the 6th inning. But we'll be back next week, and we will chat about the NLCS and the ALCS, and possibly we will know who's in the World Series by then. And this offseason is always going to be fun because there's so much turnover. And there's a little bit of a different thing with the Giants this year, which is we know that Harrison and Luciano and Matos and Schmidt, they're going to be involved. So we don't have to question that going into next year, so that they are in the cards, and that will be fun to sort of figure out that roster and what it is with those guys involved as well. So, all righty. Thanks to everybody for checking us out live and also for listening to the audio on the BSPN feed. We've increased our YouTube subs a little bit here and there, so appreciate the new YouTube viewers who are watching this and clicking on the replay. And for Brad, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Thanks to Davis for hanging out with us. Peace out.
Peace.